Hi, my name's Laura Garzala, and I would like to share some information with you on the Deepwater Horizon Court-Supervised Economic Settlement Program. And this is for educational purposes only. The information that I share is based on the amended settlement agreement, which is granted preliminary approval on May 2nd, 2012. This information is not a substitute for the official class notice and is not approved by the court. If there's any conflict with my information in the amended settlement agreement, the amended settlement agreement controls. Thank you. The economic and property damages settlement resolves certain economic loss and property damage claims related to the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill. These claims are processed and evaluated by a court-supervised claims administrator. On December 21st, 2012, the federal judge in Louisiana, Judge Carl Barbier, issued his final approval of the Deepwater Horizon economic settlement. And since the judge's final approval, there's been an increased amount of claims and payouts. The judgment that was made by Judge Barbier is not the same as the GCCF, the Gulf Coast Claims Facility. The Gulf Coast Claims Facility does not exist anymore. That has been shut down. Although if you have filed a claim with that entity, you still can possibly file a claim with this class action. How long do we have to file a claim? Claimants who have not been paid on a claim must file their claim form on or before the date April 22nd, 2014. The date that we are recording this is April 22nd, 2013. So we have exactly 12 months to submit the claims. BP agrees that there is no cap on the settlement. All eligible claims will be paid. Bear with me. Being denied by the GCCF does not prevent a Deepwater Horizon economic settlement claim. However, receiving payment and signing a full and final release could prevent a Deepwater Horizon economic settlement claim. Some claimants who accepted partial payment will have that amount deducted from any settlement. There are different classes. There's economic classes. The economic settlement is compiled with well over 1,000 pages of rules and exceptions. This means some people will not qualify. So it's important to know whether you qualify or you don't qualify so that we don't waste your time, your valuable time. Who is not included? Personal injury claims are not included. People who opted out, financial institutions, banks, bank account trusts, other financial vehicles, the gaming industry, insurance businesses, individual or businesses in the oil and gas industry, defense contractors, people who signed a full and final GCCF release, moratorial loss claims, real estate developers, and any entity selling BP brand fuel. Here are the eligible claims. Okay. Claimants must fall in a recovery zone, which corresponds to the claim on the settlement maps. And I will provide a website that you can go to where there will be an interactive map. It's Show Me the BP Money, blogspot.com. You can see it right there. If you go to that, there will be, I think on the third page, it'll say interactive map. You click on that, you plug in your address, and you can find out what zone that you are in. There's zones A, B, C, and D. We won't go through those zones right at this time, but you can get an idea. Some of these claims are loss of subsistence, vessel physical damage, wetland real property, coastal real property sales, vessels of opportunity, which is the VOO, VOO. They brought that into this class action, and economic damage. Each different type of claim has a different set of maps, so use the interactive map. We have business economic loss. Business, which falls in the economic zones, can show certain loss patterns where necessary. Those that are not excluded can recover from the settlement. There are also risk transfer premiums, RTP factors, for each zone, and those will vary. Now, all claims must show a loss, but not necessarily show causation. There are certain zones which causation is assumed. So then we need to present information to the claims administrators. Just like in a court of law, we have to give them paperwork to show that there is loss, and the information that you will need is a safe figure would be 2007 to 2011, and maybe even possibly 2012, depending on the case. And the RTP is a multiplication factor, which gives you a settlement of theoretical future loss. And that's what your RTP is. What are the differences between the business economic zones? Causation. Most zones A and B claimants do not have to prove causation. Causation is presumed for these zones. C and D must show certain loss trends. So make sure your ducks are in the row and you have the paperwork for that. And these specific loss trend patterns is what must be shown to qualify for compensation, not necessarily that the loss was caused by the oil spill. Business claims, tourism. Tourism is huge. Tourism includes business that provides services such as attracting, transporting, accommodating, or catering to the needs or wants of persons traveling to or staying in places outside of their home community. Businesses which meet the definition of tourism in zones A and B do not have to show causation. Business economic loss. Claims for individuals who lose income from rental property are considered to have business economic loss. RV parks, bed and breakfast, rent houses. There is also cancellation of contracts that were in place before April 21st, 2010. Economic loss claims. In general, payment for economic loss claims is calculated by comparing actual post-spill earnings to earnings that might have been expected in that post-spill period. There's some special claims. There's a lot in this category of this class action. There's startup businesses, failed businesses, multi-facility businesses, new entrant, festival vendors. Some of the preliminary documents you might need to gather together, obviously, is your income tax returns, again 7 to 11, monthly profit loss statements for those years, documents reflecting the business structure and ownership of the business claimant, articles of incorporation unless business is sole proprietor, any documents reflecting past payment by the GCCF or any BP entity. If a retail business, monthly sales and use tax returns for applicable years. Rental property and hotels and motels. If your properties are not managed by a property management company, we will need the following documents. You need your lodging tax returns for 2007 to 11. Occupancy reports or historical rental records on a per unit basis if available. Failed business claims. Failed business claims shall be an entity that commenced operations prior to November 1st, 2008, subsequent to May 1st, 2010, but prior to December 31st, 2011. We have failed startup businesses. A failed startup business shall be an entity that commenced operations on or after November 1st, 2008 and subsequent to May 1st, 2010, but prior to December 31st, 2011. A startup business is considered to be a claimant with less than 18 months of operating history at the time of the Deepwater Horizon spill. Individual economic loss. Individuals who lost taxable income because of the oil spill. Generally calculated by comparing 90 days from April 21st, 2010 through December 31st, 2010, and compare them to your best base calculation to show losses. So they'll be basically comparing the good years versus the 2010, and then also sometimes they will look at a curve where it came back up. Let's see. Individual economic loss claims. People who lost their jobs because of the oil spill, dock workers that were laid off, people who had job offers that were rescinded because of the oil spill, people who suffered loss of income, taxi cab drivers, individuals who worked for tourism excursions, expenses to get new license or education to find a new job, lost insurance, health benefits, and also one-time non-occurring events. An example of that would be if there was a wedding booked and they lost their cancellation fee, so they could put in a claim. And people who have worked here in this area and who have moved, that does not hinder them and prohibit them from filing a claim if they have moved to another state. Coastal real property. Owners or lessees of eligible parcels satisfying the following criteria. The claimant owned the eligible parcel during the time period of April 20th, 2010 to December 31st, 2010, or the claimant was a lessee of the eligible parcel. Coastal real property. Individuals or entities who owned or leased coastal real property or a boat slip in coastal real property zone between April 21st, 2010 and December 31st, 2010. These claims are paid based on a percentage of the county property appraisal taxes paid for the applicable years. Deeded boat slips also qualify. Okay. I'm going to share a little bit more information. What exactly is the class action settlement? A court appoints representatives to represent a group or class of others who have claims similar to the class representative's claims. Then that court resolves the issues for the class representatives and all the class members, except those who choose to exclude themselves from the class. Are the rules for proceeding and paying claims in the settlement program different than they were in the GCCF and transition process? Yes. The parties negotiated an entirely new set of rules, protocols. As a matter of fact, some of these, Judge Barbier appointed 20 entities, legal entities, and then there were also accountants that were appointed by the law firms, I believe. And as far as I know, I believe the accountants' fees are paid directly by BP. And there are agents out there to help you fill out the claims. So if you filled out a GCCF or you had started the paperwork, this does not prohibit you from applying for a new claim. They will look for that information, and they will use that information. If you already have a Deep Horizon claim, if it's an active claim, as long as you're not retained by a lawyer and if you're already represented, then you can file a new claim with this class action suit. The GCCF has closed, so this is a whole new set of rules. Court supervised, court appointed. Go over some of these questions that I thought were Important. Many of the previous claims were turned down by the GCCF because damages to businesses could not be directly attributed to the oil spill. But now BP has agreed to pay individuals and companies based on a detailed financial formula to determine whether a business is eligible to receive compensation, consistent with the Oil Pollution Act of 1990, which affords broad relief for both direct and indirect consequences of an oil spill. Direct evidence of spill impact is no longer required if your business meets the financial formula. So the GCCF has been replaced by the court-supervised settlement program. I'm going to go over again the types of claims. Individual business economic loss. That's a category. The Seafood Compensation Program, I believe, has expired, the dates for that. But I do believe that the members and the workers of charter boats and their workers are still eligible. Subsistence loss compensates for a loss of subsistence using natural resources, generally fishing or hunting, for certain individuals. That's usually pretty small. There's not a whole lot of people that live off the land and barter. It's that type of thing. Vessel physical damage, compensation for physical damage to a vessel due to certain response cleanup operations. That is still current. There are claims to be had for that. Coastal real property compensates individuals or entities who owned or leased coastal real property or boat slips located in this specific zone. Then real property sales loss compensates certain economic losses suffered by the sellers of residential property located in a specific geographic area who sold their properties at a lower price because of the Deepwater Horizon incident. Wetlands real property damage compensates individuals or entities who owned wetland real property located in specific geographic areas at any time between April 20th, 2010 and April 16th, 2012. And of course, the VU charter payment compensates individuals, entities who registered vessels to participate in BP's Vessels of Opportunity program. In addition to base compensation amounts, the settlements provide for risk transfer premiums, or RTPs, which work as effective multipliers to account for post-2010 losses and other future or uncertain risk claims. These RTPs are based on industry and geographic location and are generally more favorable than the multipliers that were provided by the stated GCCF methodologies. The deadlines again for filing the claims is April 22nd, 2014. So there is a summary of the information for the claims process. Just wanted to share some of that with you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I wasn't too dry. And again, any of this information, if it conflicts with the amended settlement agreement, the amended settlement agreement controls.